Hey guys, the story I'm about to tell you nearly cost me everything. My health, my sanity, and probably even my life. You see, I'm a vlogger, but, well, after what happened to me, I'm not sure when I'm gonna post another video on my channel, or if I ever will again. For a couple years now, I've been making a living by posting videos on dating advice, personal growth, confidence, and charisma. I've actually managed to gain quite an impressive following. And yeah, I'll be honest, having a cute face doesn't hurt when it comes to the vlogging world. To stay relevant, I'd also make appearances at major community events, and I've done my fair share of meet and greets. And that's actually how I got myself into this mess. After a really successful event in Orlando, I decided to just do a whole meet and greet tour, hitting several major cities across the country. I won't bore you with all the details. It was a long road trip, with stops in different cities to meet my fans. Just the typical Q&A and a selfie sesh with your favorite influencer. Nothing too exciting or out of the ordinary for these types of things. I'd planned to end this tour in New Orleans, but I never got there. You see, I was broadcasting basically every moment of my trip. I live tweeted, posted stories with geotags, made live videos. I didn't even think that someone would use it against me. But one night, I was staying at a small motel in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, and I recorded a couple of Instagram stories. As it turns out, one of them accidentally featured my motel room's door with a number on it. I didn't even realize it. I really should have known better. In the middle of the night, I heard a loud knock on my door. I was obviously half asleep and not thinking because I just walked towards the door and opened it. I could see a girl. She was taller and bigger than me, but it was definitely a girl. I couldn't see her face because it was dark, and she was wearing a hat. She was holding a pizza box in her hands. For some reason, I only focused on that. Even now, I remember myself staring blankly at that stupid box and trying to understand what was going on. Delivery! But I didn't order. Before I even got another word out, she pulled a taser out of her pocket. I didn't even have a second to comprehend the situation. One quick, painful flash of electric shock, and I blacked out. I regained consciousness, only to find myself lying in the back seat of a van. My hands were tied behind my back, my legs were bound together. There was a gag in my mouth. I was scared and confused. I tried to get free, but the ropes were too tight. I tried to scream, but the gag turned into a muffled moan. I looked around to see the driver. It was the same girl in the hat that had appeared in front of my motel room. She didn't even turn her head. "We're almost there. Don't worry. I won't hurt you. If you behave." At that moment, I was in panic. I kept trying to free myself. I started kicking the van's door with my legs. "That won't help you," she said in a calm voice. "There isn't a living soul for miles, just you and me." Although I couldn't see her face, I knew she was smiling when she said that. It was beyond creepy. After a while, the van came to a stop. I heard the front door clap shut as my kidnapper got out of the car. Barely breathing, I waited for what would happen next. I heard her steps walking around, coming toward me. She opened the door. Her face was covered by some creepy mask. I tried to scream once again, but the gag made the noise really quiet and pathetic. "Oh jeez," she sighed, as if she was babysitting a stubborn little kid who was misbehaving. "I've told you. There's nobody around for miles. You really shouldn't bother." She pulled me out of the van. I made another desperate attempt to break free. I kicked her in the stomach with both legs. She gasped and stopped for a second, recollecting her strength after the blow. I took this as an opportunity and tried to crawl away. Now, I understand it was stupid. I didn't really stand a chance, but I was so scared and desperate that I couldn't think straight. I just kept crawling, as if I actually believed that I could escape, until something heavy landed on my legs. Tears of hideous pain flooded my eyes. She turned me around and I could see her silhouette against the night sky, a huge wrench in her hand. She grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me somewhere. I was in such pain and hysteria that I blacked out once again. I woke up in a barn, lying on a bed, untied, cleaned up, with my broken leg fixed with some sort of improvised splint. I sat up and took a look around. There was a huge divider railing in the middle of the barn, separating the part where I was, decorated and furnished like a bedroom, and the other part. It was dim, but I could see a huge wooden door on the other side. I tried to stand up, but my leg hurt way too much. "Sorry about that," I heard from the other side of the barn. I shuddered. My kidnapper was sitting in the dark. I could barely see her, but I saw that same mask was covering her face. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she came closer to the railing. She was holding a Burger King bag. She held out her hand between the bars and put the bag on the floor, on my side of the barn. "You should eat. It's your favorite. I remember you said so in a vlog 3 months ago." I didn't move. "What do you want from me? Why are you wearing a mask?" "Some faces aren't meant to be seen, but yours is." She stood there for a while, watching me like a total creep. "You give my life meaning, but you'd never even notice me." A horrific realization was slowly coming to me, as if I subconsciously tried to push it away. I've been kidnapped by some crazy fan. Even in my head, it sounded way too surreal, like a plot for some bad horror flick. She quickly walked away and started opening multiple locks on the barn door. "Wait!" I yelled, completely horrified. "You can't just leave me here. If you let me go, I'll prove to you. We can get to know each other. Just let me out!" She didn't even listen. She walked out, leaving me alone. I was completely numb. Is this real? What do I do? I sat there, alone, terrified and silent. After a while, I decided to eat the food she'd brought me. I was starving. Plus, I thought that having something to eat would help me regain my strength and think straight. How could I have known that it'd do the complete opposite? As I learned later, she'd put sedatives in the food. That's how the following longest weeks of my life began. It was a never-ending nightmare, most of which I was only semi-conscious for. She'd sedated me on a regular basis, and when I passed out, she'd unlock the gate and come sit next to me. I'd occasionally wake up to feel her arms wrapped around me or her fingers in my hair, but that was mostly it. As innocent as it sounds, I still was terrified. I never knew what she could do to me, and she knew that I was fully in her power. For a while, I tried to reject the food completely, but it didn't help at all. At some point, I realized that she was putting sedatives in my water, not in the food. So I stopped drinking the water. That was hard, because the sedatives made me dehydrated, and I was constantly thirsty. But the only thing I craved more than water was my freedom. So instead of drinking, I'd pour the water into the makeshift toilet she'd set up for me. I faked being sedated and weak, as if I really had drunk it. After several days, it finally paid off. One day, when I was lying in my bed pretending to be unconscious, she entered the barn, unlocked the gate, and walked to my little prison. This was my chance. She was about to lock the gate when I jumped and rushed towards her. In a second, I was next to her. I pushed her away from the railing and ran out of the barn. My leg hadn't healed right, so each step was really painful. But I pushed through it. My freedom was the only thing that really mattered. I rushed towards the van. I got insanely lucky that the rusty old piece of junk wasn't locked. I got in and locked myself inside. Thanks to a prank video I'd made in my early vlogging days, I knew how to jumpstart an old car like this one. I was about to try my trick when my kidnapper came out of the barn and ran towards the van. She felt around her pockets, looking for keys to unlock it. She then suddenly ran into the house. I assumed she didn't have the keys on her, and that saved me. Just when she was coming out of the house, I finally managed to start the engine and drove off as fast as I could. When I got to the nearest town, I immediately went to the police. I gave them the directions on how to find that place where she had held me. But when they got there, they only found burning buildings. That insane girl actually set the house and barn on fire just to destroy any evidence. The police had no lead. That house had been abandoned for a long time, and its only legal owner living in Hawaii for the last 10 years. The case is still open, but I don't have much faith that they'll ever catch her. And what terrifies me the most is that I don't even know what she looks like. I couldn't give the police her description. I couldn't even recognize her if we met face to face. The very thought of her being somewhere out there, stalking me, keeps me awake at night and far away from social media. I'm not sure if I'll ever post another video on my channel. So far, I'm way too scared to risk it.